The autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves through the bustling streets of Manhattan as Marcus Blackwood adjusted his Italian silk tie for the 5th time. His reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office showed a man who had everything: wealth, success, and most importantly, the love of Helena Rose, the woman he planned to propose to in exactly 3 hours. Marcus pulled out the velvet box from his desk drawer, revealing a flawless 3-carat diamond ring that had cost him more than most people's annual salary. But money meant nothing when it came to Helena. She was worth every penny and more. "Sir, the restaurant has confirmed your reservation," his assistant James announced from the doorway. "The private dining room overlooking Central Park is ready, complete with the string quartet you requested." Marcus nodded, his heart racing. With anticipation and the flowers? 24 white roses, just as you specified, Ms. Rose's favorite. Everything was perfect. Helena believed they were simply celebrating his latest business acquisition, a chain of luxury hotels across Europe. She had no idea that tonight would change their lives forever. Marcus had rehearsed his speech countless times. He would tell her how she had transformed his world from one of cold business deals to warm, meaningful moments. How her laugh could brighten his darkest days, and how her gentle touch could calm his restless spirit. "I love you, Helena," he whispered to his reflection, practicing the words he would soon speak. "Will you marry me?" The phone buzzed on his desk. Helena's name appeared on the screen. "Marcus, darling, I'm running a bit late from the gallery." Her melodic voice filled the room. "The new exhibition is absolutely stunning. I lost track of time." Helena worked as an art curator at one of the city's most prestigious galleries. Her passion for beauty and creativity was one of the many things that had drawn Marcus to her. "It takes your time, love," Marcus replied, his voice warm. "I'll pick you up at 7. I can't wait to hear about your new hotels. You sounded so excited on the phone yesterday." Marcus smiled. If only she knew what he was truly excited about. After ending the call, Marcus walked to his window, gazing down at the city that had made him a fortune. At 35, he was one of the youngest billionaires in the country. But success felt hollow without someone to share it with. Helena had filled that void completely. He thought back to the day they met 18 months ago at a charity auction. She was bidding on a painting for the gallery, her eyes bright with determination. Marcus had been immediately captivated, not just by her beauty, her flowing chestnut hair and emerald eyes, but by her intelligence and passion. Their first conversation had lasted hours, discussing art, philosophy, and dreams. Unlike other women he had dated, Helena wasn't impressed by his wealth. She saw through to the man beneath the expensive suits and luxury cars. "Mr. Blackwood," James interrupted his thoughts, "your driver is ready whenever you are." Marcus tucked the ring box into his jacket pocket, the weight of it both thrilling and terrifying. Tonight would be the beginning of their forever. As he walked toward the elevator, Marcus felt a strange flutter of nervousness, not about Helena's answer, but about the life they would build together. He had worked so hard to leave his past behind, to become the man worthy of her love. The elevator descended toward the parking garage, each floor bringing him closer to what he believed would be the happiest moment of his life. Asterisk. The black Mercedes glided through the early evening traffic. As Marcus reviewed his mental checklist one final time, the ring was secure in his pocket, the restaurant was prepared, and in just 2 hours, Helena would hopefully become his fiancée. Traffic is later than expected. "Sir," his driver, Thomas, announced, "will reach the gallery early." "Perfect," Marcus replied, though his palms were surprisingly damp. He had closed million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, yet the thought of proposing made his heart race. As they pulled up to the prestigious Whitmore Gallery, Marcus spotted Helena through the large glass windows. She was speaking animatedly with a potential buyer, her hands gracefully gesturing toward an abstract painting. Even from a distance, her passion was evident. Marcus decided to wait outside, not wanting to interrupt her work. He stepped out of the car and began walking along the sidewalk, breathing in the cool autumn air to calm his nerves. That's when he saw her. Victoria Carmichael was standing across the street at the bus stop. Her once vibrant blonde hair now pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired, older than her 32 years, wearing a simple coat that had seen better days. Beside her stood two children, a boy of about 8, with dark hair like Marcus's, and a girl of perhaps 6, with Victoria's blue eyes. Marcus felt the world tilt on its axis. 7 years. It had been 7 years since he last saw Victoria, since their relationship had ended in a storm of harsh words and broken promises, as if sensing his gaze. Victoria looked up and their eyes met across the busy street. Her face went pale, then flushed with a mixture of emotions Marcus couldn't decipher. The little boy tugged on her coat, saying something Marcus couldn't hear, without thinking. Marcus found himself crossing the street, his expensive shoes clicking against the asphalt. Victoria's grip on her children's hands tightened as he approached. "Victoria?" he said softly, his voice barely audible over the city traffic. "Marcus." Her voice was steady, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "It's been a long time." Awkward silence stretched between them as Marcus's eyes inevitably drifted to the children. The boy was staring up at him with curious dark eyes that looked remarkably familiar. "These are my children," Victoria said, her voice protective. "Jamie and little Chloe." "Hi, Jamie," said with the innocent friendliness of youth. "Are you Mama's friend?" Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "Something like that," he managed. Chloe, shyer than her brother, peeked out from behind her mother's legs. She had Victoria's delicate features, but something about her smile reminded Marcus of someone else entirely. "We were just heading home," Victoria said quickly. "The bus should be here any minute." "Where are you living now?" Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure why it mattered. "Brooklyn. Jamie starts 3rd grade next month, and Chloe's starting kindergarten." Victoria's voice carried a note of pride mixed with exhaustion. "We're doing well." But Marcus could see the worn edges of her coat, the slightly scuffed shoes on the children's feet. The Victoria he had known 7 years ago had been full of dreams and ambitions. Now she looked like someone who was simply surviving. "Mama, is the bus coming soon?" "I'm hungry," Chloe said, tugging on Victoria's hand. "Soon, sweetheart," Victoria assured her daughter, then looked back at Marcus. "Really go?" "Wait," Marcus said, pulling out his wallet. "Let me know." Victoria's voice was sharp, final. "We don't need anything from you, Marcus." The rejection stung more than he expected. Behind them, Marcus could see Helena emerging from the gallery, looking around for his car. Panic flickered through him. "I should go too," he said awkwardly. "I have plans tonight." Something flickered in Victoria's eyes, hurt. Relief? He couldn't tell. "Of course you do," she said quietly. "You always did." The bus arrived with a hiss of brakes, and Victoria quickly ushered her children aboard. Just before stepping up, Jamie turned back and waved at Marcus with a bright smile. "Bye, Mr. Marcus," watched the bus pull away, carrying Victoria and the children back to their life in Brooklyn, a life that somehow felt connected to him in ways he didn't want to examine too closely. "Marcus, darling, there you are." He turned to see Helena approaching, her face glowing with excitement from her successful day at work. She looked radiant in her navy dress, her hair catching the golden light of the street lamps. "Sorry, I was just ... Marcus began, then stopped. How could he explain what had just happened? Just what? Helena asked, slipping her arm through his. "You look like you've seen a ghost." As they walked toward the waiting car, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he had. The restaurant was everything Marcus had envisioned amidst intimate lighting, soft music, and a view of Central Park that sparkled with the city lights. Looked stunning in the candlelight, her eyes bright with happiness as she told him about the day's exhibition. "The Rothko sold for twice our estimate," she said, raising her wine glass in celebration. And Mrs. Pemberton finally decided on the Monet for her private collection. Marcus nodded and smiled at the appropriate moments, but his mind kept drifting to the encounter with Victoria. The way Jamie had looked at him with those familiar dark eyes. The exhaustion in Victoria's face, the protective way she had held her children close. "Marcus," Elena's voice cut through his thoughts. "You seem distracted tonight. Is everything all right with the hotel acquisition?" He forced himself to focus on the woman sitting across from him, the woman he loved, the woman he planned to propose to in less than an hour. "Everything's perfect," he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. I was just thinking about how beautiful you look tonight. Helena blushed, her fingers intertwining with his. You always know exactly what to say. But as Marcus looked into her trusting green eyes, he felt a weight settling in his chest. Helena deserved complete honesty, complete transparency. Yet how could he explain about Victoria when he didn't even understand what he was feeling himself? Tell me about your day before the gallery, Helena said, cutting into her salmon. You left the office early, didn't you? James mentioned you seemed excited about something special. The ring box seemed to burn in Marcus's pocket. Just some last-minute preparations for tonight? For celebrating the hotels? Helena tilted her head, curiosity dancing in her eyes. You're being very mysterious. 7 years ago, Victoria had accused him of being mysterious too, of keeping parts of himself locked away, of never fully letting her in. The memory of their last fight came rushing back. You think money can fix everything, Marcus, but it can't fix this, Victoria had shouted, tears streaming down her face. You're so focused on building your empire that you can't see what's right in front of you. What do you want from me, Victoria? I'm working 18-hour days to build something for us, for our future. I want you to be present when you're with me. I want to matter more than your next business deal. She had paused, her hand moving to her stomach in a gesture he hadn't understood then. I want you to love me enough to make room in your life for what really matters. This is ridiculous, he had said, grabbing his jacket. I have a meeting with investors from Tokyo in an hour. We'll talk when you're being rational. He had walked out that night expecting to return to find Victoria calmed down and ready to apologize. Instead, he found an empty apartment and a note, saying she needed space to figure out what she really wanted. He never saw her again. Until today, Marcus? Helena's worried voice brought him back to the present. You look pale. Are you feeling ill? I'm fine, he said quickly, but his hands were trembling slightly. The waiter approached with the dessert. Coarse chocolate soufflé with gold leaf, another carefully planned detail of this perfect evening. But nothing felt perfect anymore. Maybe we should go home, Helena suggested, concern creasing her forehead. You've been working so hard lately, no, Marcus said, perhaps too sharply. Helena's eyes widened in surprise. No, I'm fine. This is important. Tonight is important. He reached into his pocket, his fingers closing around the ring box. This was the moment. Helena deserved this proposal, deserved his complete attention and devotion. Whatever had happened with Victoria was ancient history, but as he began to pull out the box, Jamie's innocent face flashed in his mind, those dark eyes that looked so much like his own. And suddenly, a terrible possibility began to form in his thoughts, the timing, Victoria's protective stance, the way she had refused his money. Marcus, you're scaring me, Helena whispered. What's wrong? Oh. He looked at her. Looked at her. Helena was everything he had ever wanted in a partner. Intelligent, kind, passionate about her work. She deserved complete honesty, especially if she was going to become his wife. There's something I need to tell you, he said slowly. The ring. Box still hidden in his pocket. Helena straightened, her wine glass halfway to her lips. Okay, before I met you, there was someone else. Someone important. Helena's face remained carefully neutral, but Marcus could see the slight tightening around her eyes. All right, her name was Victoria. We were together for almost 3 years, and when it ended, Marcus paused, struggling with words. It ended badly. I thought I'd never see her again. But you did see her again, Helena said quietly. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded. Today, just before I picked you up. She has 2 children now. The silence that followed was deafening. Helena set down her wine glass with deliberate care, her movements precise and controlled. I see, she said finally. And how did that make you feel? The question was so Helena thoughtful, giving him space to process his emotions rather than reacting with jealousy or anger. It made what he had to say next even harder. Confused, Marcus admitted, and guilty. I treated her badly, Helena. I was so focused on building my business that I didn't make time for what mattered. She tried to tell me, but I didn't listen. Helena nodded slowly. And now you're wondering if you owe her something. I'm wondering if those children stopped, unable to voice the fear that had been growing in his mind. Helena's sharp intake of breath told him she understood. Marcus, are you saying what I think you're saying? The chocolate souffle sat untouched between them as Marcus struggled with the truth. He wasn't even sure of himself. I don't know, he said finally. But I think I need to find out. Helena stared at Marcus across the candlelit table, her face a mask of composure that he knew was costing her enormous effort. The string quartet continued playing softly in the background, their romantic melody now sounding almost mocking in the heavy silence between them. You think those children might be yours? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus felt something die inside his chest at the pain in her eyes. I don't know. The timing, ... It's possible. Helena's hands were folded carefully in her lap, but Marcus could see them trembling slightly. The boy, Jamie, he looked like you. He has dark hair, dark eyes. But Helena, that doesn't mean how old did she say he was? Helena interrupted, her journalist's mind clearly working through the timeline. About 8. Helena nodded once, sharp and precise. And when did your relationship with Victoria end? 7 years ago. The admission hung between them like a blade. 4. A long moment, Helena said nothing. She stared out the window at Central Park, where couples walked hand in hand beneath the streetlights, probably sharing plans and dreams for their future together. You were going to propose tonight, she said suddenly. Marcus's hand instinctively moved toward his pocket, then stopped. Helena, weren't you? Her green eyes met his, and he saw a steely strength there he'd never noticed before. That's why you've been so nervous, so secretive. That's what this perfect dinner was about. There was no point in lying. Yes, Helena laughed, but there was no humor in the sound, of course. The one night you decide to ask me to spend my life with. You is the same night you discover you might have children with another woman. We don't know that's true, Marcus said desperately. Not even if it is. It doesn't change how I feel about you, doesn't it? Helena asked softly. Because you look like a man whose entire world just shifted off its axis. Marcus opened his mouth to deny it, then closed it again. Because she was right. The moment he saw Jamie's face, something fundamental had changed. Not his love for Helena, that remained constant, but his understanding of himself, of his past, of the responsibilities he might have unknowingly abandoned. I love you, he said. Quietly, that hasn't changed, but you can't marry me. Not now. Not until you know the truth. It wasn't a question. And Marcus felt a stab of both relief and regret that Helena understood so clearly what he was only beginning to admit to himself. I'm sorry, he whispered. Helena looked down at her hands, and when she spoke again, her voice was thick with unshed tears. 7 years, Marcus. If Jamie is your son, he's been growing up without his father for 7 years, taking his first steps, losing his first tooth, learning to read, all without you. The weight of that possibility was crushing. Marcus had always imagined that, when he had children, he would be the kind of father his own dad had never been present, involved, supportive. The idea that he might have already failed so completely was almost unbearable. And Helena continued, she's 6. Was Victoria pregnant with her when you broke up? Or did she meet someone else after? Marcus hadn't even considered Chloe. He'd been so focused on Jamie's resemblance to him that he hadn't thought about the little girl with Victoria's blue eyes and shy smile. I don't know, he said miserably. I don't know anything. Helena finally looked up at him, and Marcus saw that tears were sliding silently down her cheeks. You have to find out. You know that, right? You can't just ignore this and hope it goes away. And if they are mine, both of them are mine, then you'll do what you should have done 7 years ago, Helena said firmly. You'll be their father. Simple statement hit Marcus like a physical blow. Be their father. Take responsibility for 2 children he'd never known existed, who had been raised by a woman who clearly wanted nothing to do with him. Helena, I don't, she said, holding up her hand. Don't apologize again, and don't make any promises you can't keep. Just take me home, please. They rode back to Helena's apartment in silence, the city lights blurring past the windows. When the car stopped outside her building, Helena turned to him one final time. "Marcus, when you find out the truth, and you will find out. Because I know you remember that those children didn't choose any of this. If they're yours, they've been waiting their whole lives for their father to come home, even if they don't. Know it." She leaned over and kissed his cheek gently, her lips warm against his skin. "I love you too," she whispered. "That's why I'm letting you go." Marcus watched her walk up the steps to her building, her shoulders straight despite the tears. He knew she was still crying. When she disappeared inside, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. "This is Marcus Blackwood," he said when the private investigator answered. "I need you to find someone for me. Victoria Carmichael. Lives in Brooklyn, with 2 children." As the car pulled away from Helena's building, Marcus caught a glimpse of her silhouette in her apartment window. She was standing there watching him leave, and he realized that even if this story had a happy ending, it might not include the woman he'd planned to marry just hours ago. The ring box felt like lead in his pocket, symbol of dreams that might now belong to a different future entirely. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He stood in his penthouse, still wearing his expensive suit from the ruined dinner, staring out at the city that had always represented his success. Now it felt like a monument to his failures. By dawn, his private investigator had sent a preliminary report. Victoria Carmichael, age 32, worked as a part-time bookkeeper for 3 small businesses in Brooklyn. She lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment with her children, Jamie 8 and Chloe 6. No father listed on either birth certificate. No record of marriage or long-term relationship since her time with Marcus. The report included an address and school information for the children. Jamie attended PS 234 and was reportedly a bright student who loved math and soccer. Chloe was enrolled to start kindergarten at the same school in 2 weeks. Marcus read the report 3 times before calling his lawyer. "I need to know my options regarding paternity testing," he said, without preamble. When David answered, "Marcus, it's 6:30 in the morning. What's going on?" After explaining the situation, David was quiet for a long moment. "You can request testing, but if the mother doesn't consent, you'd need a court order. That would require proving you have reasonable cause to believe you're the father. If I am, then you'd have rights and responsibilities. Child support, visitation, potentially shared custody depending on what's in the children's best interests." Marcus hung up and called his driver. He needed to see Victoria to have a conversation they should have had 7 years ago. The Brooklyn neighborhood was a world away from Manhattan's gleaming towers. Tree-lined streets with modest apartment buildings, children's bikes on front porches, the sound of morning cartoons drifting through open windows. Marcus found Victoria's building a well-maintained brownstone that had been converted into apartments. He sat in his car for 20 minutes, trying to find the courage to knock on her door. Finally, he saw her emerge with the children. Jamie carried a worn backpack, and Chloe clutched a stuffed rabbit. Victoria looked tired but determined, the way she had during their relationship when facing a challenge. Marcus got out of his car. "Victoria." She stopped short, her protective instincts immediately kicking in as she stepped slightly in front of her children. "What are you doing here, Marcus? We need to talk." "Mama, it's the nice man from yesterday," Chloe said, peeking around her mother's legs. "Yes, sweetie, but we need to get to school," Victoria said, taking each child's hand. "Say goodbye to Mr. Blackwood." "Blackwood?" Jamie looked up with interest. "That's a cool name. Like a tree that's been burned but is still strong." The innocent observation hit Marcus unexpectedly hard. This bright, thoughtful boy might be his son. And Marcus had missed 8 years of these moments, the clever observations, the wonder, the daily growth and change. "Jamie, Chloe, could you go sit on the front steps for just a minute?" Victoria asked. "Stay where I can see you." The children obeyed, Jamie taking his sister's hand and leading her to the stoop. Marcus noticed how naturally the boy looked after Chloe, the way he made sure she was comfortable before sitting down himself. "How did you find us?" Victoria asked. Once the children were out of earshot, "Does it matter?" "It matters to me. We're not hiding, but we're also not looking to be found." Marcus studied her face. looking for clues to the questions that had kept him awake all night. Victoria, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Her jaw tightened. I've never lied to you, Marcus. Are they mine? The question hung in the air between them. Victoria's face went through several emotions: pain, anger, and something that might have been relief. Which one? She asked quietly. The response confirmed his worst fears and deepest suspicions simultaneously. Both. Victoria glanced toward her children, who were engaged in some elaborate game involving Chloe's stuffed rabbit and Jamie's backpack. Jamie is, she said finally. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after our last fight. I tried to call you. But your assistant said you were in Tokyo, then London, then Hong Kong. When you finally returned my call 3 weeks later, you asked if it could wait because you were closing a major deal. Marcus felt sick. He remembered that call. Remembered being annoyed by what he'd assumed was Victoria wanting to rehash their relationship drama. Decided it could wait forever, Victoria continued. You'd made your priorities very clear. And Chloe. Chloe's father is a teacher at Jamie's school. We dated for about 2 years when Jamie was 3 and 4. He's a good man, but he took a job in Seattle when Chloe was 2. We still video call every few weeks. Marcus felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. Chloe wasn't his, but that somehow made his absence from Jamie's life feel even worse. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I had a right to know. Victoria's eyes flashed with old anger. You had a right to know because you contributed sperm? Where were you when I was throwing up every morning for 4 months? Where were you when I went to every prenatal appointment alone? Where were you? When Jamie had colic and cried for 3 hours every night? Each accusation was a knife in Marcus's chest, not because they were cruel, but because they were accurate. You're right, he said quietly. I failed him. I failed you both. We didn't need your money, Marcus. We needed you. Jamie used to ask why other kids had daddies and he didn't. I told him some families are just different. Marcus looked over at Jamie, who was now showing Chloe how to make his backpack stand up like a tent. The boy's patience with his half-sister, his gentle way of explaining things, spoke to a kindness that Marcus wasn't sure he possessed at that age. Can I meet him? Properly, I mean? Can I tell him who I am? Victoria was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she might refuse. Finally, she spoke. He's been asking about you since yesterday. Not by name, but he asked if you were someone Mama used to know. He's too smart for his own good sometimes. What did you tell him? That you were someone from a long time ago, before he and Chloe were born. But Marcus... She turned to face him fully, her expression serious. If you do this, if you become part of his life, you can't disappear when things get complicated. Children aren't business deals. You can walk away. From I know? Do you? Because 8-year-old boys fall in love with their fathers completely. If you let him down, it will break his heart in a way that might never heal. Marcus thought about Helena, about the proposal that would never happen, about the life he'd carefully planned that was now completely derailed. I want to be his father, he said. I want to try. Victoria studied his face for a long moment. Okay, but we do this slowly, and we do it my way. Jamie's well-being comes first. Not your guilt or your need to fix things. Agreed. To the children, who came running over with the boundless energy of youth, Jamie, Chloe, remember Mr. Blackwood from yesterday? Chloe said shyly. Hello, Mr. Blackwood, Jamie said with careful politeness. Marcus knelt down so he was at Jamie's eye level. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking, the same dark eyes, same stubborn chin, even the same way of tilting his head. When thinking, actually, Marcus said, his heart pounding. You can call me Marcus. And I was wondering, would you like to get ice cream sometime? All of you, I mean? Jamie's face lit up. Can we, Mama? Victoria looked at Marcus with a mixture of hope and fear. We'll see, she said finally. But right now, you need to get to school. As Marcus watched them walk down the street, Victoria in the middle, holding both children's hands, he realized that everything he thought he knew about love, responsibility, and family was about to change. His phone buzzed with a text from Helena, thinking about you, hoping you find the answers you need. Marcus typed and deleted several responses before finally writing back, Thank you for understanding. You're extraordinary. Her reply came quickly. So is the chance to be the Father, those children deserve. Don't waste it.